Okay, now we can go. And I again call this virtual meeting of the Council of the Village of Glendale to order. I will note that all of the requirements of the state of Ohio to hold a virtual meeting as opposed to an in-person meeting have been satisfied. And we'll begin, as we always begin, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your hand over your hearts and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we'll begin with a roll call. And so, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Bessel.
Here.
Mr. Howeller.
Here.
Ms. Duke.
Here.
Ms. Masenko.
Here.
Mr. Baysmith.
Present.
Mr. Kreidler.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Can you confirm that?
I confirm the presence of a quorum.
Very good. And we'll now turn to the minutes. We were busy last month. We had 3 meetings. So we'll begin with the regular council meeting of November 2nd. And these meetings have been circulated and changed, amended somewhat. So do I have a motion to accept the latest version of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carried 5-1. We have the minutes of the special council meeting of November 12th. Those have also been circulated. And do I have a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
And finally, we have the special meeting of November 19th. And these have been circulated. Is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I've got to ask, is there any opposition to these minutes? Okay, so those are accepted unanimously.
No opposition to the minutes of November 19th.
Right. And I'll just call your attention to the fact that we have distributed dates for the meetings of 2021. And I will just say how good it sounds to say that date and to know that light is at the end of the tunnel and 2020 is going to be over.
Mhm.
And I'm just hoping 2021 cannot possibly be as bad. So looking forward to it. And our first meeting will of course be on January 4th, first Monday in the month. Thereafter, we have a few meetings that have been juggled for reasons of holidays. And we will publish these meeting dates in the newsletter on Friday, and we will also post them on our website. So with that, I understand that there are some people who wish to address council in the public comments section. And so one is Mr. Bill Parrish. Is Mr. Parrish here? Can we bring him in? I see his name. Mr. Parrish,
Yes. Hello?
I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me?
Not well. How about anybody else?
Seems to be some kind of a clicking in the background, Bill.
We're not hearing you, Bill.
It's not on my computer.
We're getting kind of a clicking sound, and then we can hear a
Yeah.
little bit of what you say.
Um, Can you hear me?
No, we're getting this clicking sound.
Okay,
It's interference from something. Is there?
okay, yeah, yeah, turn that.
It seems a little better now, Bill.
Oh,
Go ahead, Bill.
it's still doing it?
Yes.
Turn the heater off. I have no idea where it's coming from.
It seems like it happens every time you try to speak, a clicking starts, and then it kind of makes it harder to hear what you're saying.
Let me see if promoting you to panelist will solve it. It might be a microphone issue.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Just barely. Maybe
Okay.
others can hear you better than I.
But the click,
There's no clicking sound.
yeah, no
Yeah,
clicking.
that's gone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you'll have to speak up, though.
Okay, okay, can I start? Is it okay to go?
I think so.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, my name's Bill Parrish. I'm president of the, and director of the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center at 220 East Sharon Road in the historic village of Glendale. I'm addressing council this evening in response to a statement made by Village Administrator Walter Cordes during a TV interview with WCPO Channel 9 on August 18, 2020, regarding why the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center didn't receive the bid for the renovation of the Eckstein School, a historic Black school in the village of Glendale. Mr. Cordes stated that, and I quote, "After years of working with Mr. Parrish, he didn't have a workable plan or show evidence that he could finance the building." So tonight I'd like to provide a tangible video and email evidence that the statement was untrue. I'd also like to add at that time that Mr. Cordes wasn't village administrator at the time when I made the presentation to the council meeting dated December 7, 2016. It made a full PowerPoint presentation with the handouts to council sharing the business plan, preliminary architectural drawings, a 3-phase process, an estimated cost. At that time, it was $650,000 and financial sources. Now, our costs for the renovations were approved by Mike Bessel and his guy. They landed on the same numbers, overall numbers at that time. Now, in January 2017, ECAC met all the requirements to begin a term sheet negotiation. As ECAC and council negotiated the term sheet drawn up by the village for $1, ECAC submitted a letter and an application to the Proctor Fund detailing the grant needed as part of our plan to fund the renovation. Not only that, we made applications to the Lewis and Louise Nippert Foundation and the Carruthers Foundation of Hamilton. We had over 2 years of a developing relationship with the Ohio Connection in Columbus, and we're looking forward to receiving a $40,000 grant from the state to do the preliminary work necessary as stated by the Ohio EPA for a total of $1.2 million. Now, due to time, I won't read the ECAC's letter and its grant proposal, which I have here. But I would like to make it part of a public record. Many of you may not know that M&O Realty wanted to partner with the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center on the school renovation, and it offered us space in the village in one of their properties during the renovation. But it was unfortunate that the building was forfeited by M&O, and without ECAC having any knowledge of this and or the opportunity to respond to it, it was given to another person. We didn't have the opportunity to obtain it. It's been over 2 years now, and the Eckstein School is still sitting there. As per our plan, the renovations would be nearly complete. We had a 2-year plan, 3 phases to complete it.
You have about a minute, sir.
So I noticed that the bid process has changed somewhat in how the Cole Avenue property was put out in a bid, and the names and all of that was collected in that. I would give you, commend you for how you did that. However, in the bid process of the Eckstein School, I've never received any information about the bids, how it was decided, or any of that information. So I wanted to share that tonight because we did, and you can, I have the documents, emails that I'll make part of the public record and deliver them to the administration office, just to let you know that we did provide that information, and we would like you to know that. So thank you for your time and consideration. Thanks for all you do for the village of Glendale.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Mr. Kevin Parrish. Mr. Parrish, are you there?
He is. Give me just one moment to. All right, he has the ability to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'll start
You
my
may
timer.
begin.
Yes, my name is Kevin Parrish, resident in the village of Glendale. At the last meeting, council meeting, I asked a question about the CMOM plan, which would address the water issues that we have in the village of Glendale. Mayor Lofty, you responded in saying that you don't take those verbal requests, but here I have a letter from the village of Glendale dated February 13th of 2019, where it says, request for water quality information. Dear Mr. Parrish, Mayor Lofty forwarded your verbal request asking for information about the quality of the village of Glendale's drinking water and asked that I respond. That letter was signed by the village administrator, Walter Cortes, and it was copied to you, Mayor Lofty, and Kevin Bell. That was my first order of business. The second order of business is that after viewing this CMO plan, which is to address issues of the water problems we have with the wastewater treatment plant, I find that in your application for funding that you didn't, it says, will this project reduce the number of backup events by 50% or more, or eliminate occurrences backups into buildings due to inadequate capacity of sewers or equalization basins to handle flows during wet weather conditions? That answer is no. This is just only part of the things I found that was quite puzzling to me. But actually, I want to bring your attention to the Lake Park incident on May 20th, 2020. At that time, when the Lake Park flooded, over 32 residents were affected, and the fire department put in 200 man hours with 15 personnel. That's the equivalent of 5 weeks of 40-hour-a-week pay for one day. I asked questions as to how does that offset the budget, because we've had many occurrences with that problem. This is something that has consistently plagued the village of Glendale and residents, and it has continually been a burden on the fire department. But more puzzling is the fact that the Mayor Lofty, our village administrator, and Kevin Bell all know of this problem that has went unaddressed for so long, that in the EPA's address to them, they say we need to prioritize that. But they've been chanting that for a long time. And it seems like you guys have conspired to defraud the public and not telling them of the dangers that these water invasions present to them. So for anybody who is watching this broadcast who would like more detailed information from the Ohio EPA, Hamilton County Health Department, Fire Marshal's Office, please contact me at my email address, which is kevinleroyparish@gmail.com, or my phone number, which is 513-498-3210. These violations are serious, but more serious is the health risk that residents in the village of Glendale have been exposed to for years. This is not a problem that just developed. This is a known problem documented in all kinds of documents in Ohio EPA and Health Department, violations, water samples, and all kinds of things that the mayor, the village administrator, and Kevin Bell all are aware of. At this time, and speaking on behalf of me being a representative for the Black muted voices in the village of Glendale and the residents that go unheard, I would ask to have the council deliberate about a special council meeting so that we can address these issues, and so that all residents in the village of Glendale might be more updated and educated about the health concerns that they are experiencing. Thank you.
Okay, we are going on now to, there's no old business, so we go to new business, and we will begin with ordinance 2020-45, an ordinance identifying expenditures of the Coronavirus Relief Fund as substantially dedicated to mitigating the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic in the village of Glendale and declaring an emergency. Administrator Cordes, I wonder if you could give us a little background for those of us not totally familiar with this.
If I may yield to David Lumsden, who gracefully and thoroughly prepared this ordinance. David, would you take it?
Thank you, Wally, and thank you, Mayor. It's been a while since I've written an ordinance, so I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. This ordinance is a retroactive measure. As you're aware, the village received about $141,000 in CARES Act funding from Hamilton County in the state of Ohio and the federal government. And that funding needed to be used towards purchases and towards expenditures that are substantially dedicated to the COVID-19 pandemic or mitigating the COVID-19 pandemic. So the purpose of this ordinance is to, by action of council, do just that. We've listed the purchases on the second page, Exhibit A, as some of the things that the village has purchased to offset the impact of COVID-19 in the village and maintain a certain level of normal operation in the face of the pandemic. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, before we have questions, do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second,
And do I have a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, now are there any questions? Or discussion for that matter? Hearing no questions or discussion, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
To dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Don, I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Ordinance 2020-46, an ordinance authorizing a transfer of funds within the general fund and declaring an emergency. Mr. Cordes or Lumsden, can you introduce this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. The legal fees for the Village of Glendale were initially appropriated as $15,000 in the 2020 budget. That is insufficient to pay the legal fees for the period to date and for the remainder of the year. Therefore, this ordinance would transfer $25,000 from the contingency fund to the clerk treasurer account, which holds the legal fees, as well as $9,000 from the police account to the clerk treasurer account. Recall that we were able to the personnel expenses of the police and fire department. Therefore, there is sufficient money in the police department to allow the transfer of $9,000 to make us able and whole to pay the legal fees to year end.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Did we get a second in there somewhere?
Yes.
Madam Clerk? Okay. Madam
I
Clerk?
didn't hear a second. I heard several motions.
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. And are there any questions or discussion on this ordinance?
Question. Do I understand that the $25,000 and also the $9,000 are being transferred from the various accounts to the general fund to pay for legal fees that have exceeded the budget for this fiscal year?
That is correct.
Actually, to the clerk's account within the general fund, to be completely accurate.
So
Yes, but the money will be going, I think the mayor answered my question, that the money will be going to pay the legal fees. I would ask that the finance committee look at that line item when the committee prepares the budget for 2021. That's $34,000 in addition to what had been appropriated and budgeted for legal expenses. And to me, that's a substantial increase from what had been budgeted for this fiscal year. So again, I will bring it up during the finance committee meeting. And
I will
when
just
we
say
prepare or
for the
discuss.
benefit of anybody
budget.
watching, the original budget was rather low at 15,000. And I don't know how that exactly happened because that was not the number I thought was going to be there. So there was some, and then, you know, we've had a lot of legal work this year. But we will discuss it in the finance committee meeting.
Yes,
Any
we
further
can.
discussion?
Well, Mr. Cordes, is the $25,000, I believe that is the remainder of the funds in the contingency fund. Is that correct?
Affirmative, that would deplete it.
Okay, got it. Which hence the need to try to save something somewhere else. And I'm glad that we are able to save in various other areas so that we can pay this. And we will look at it again in the finance committee. And to Don's point, there was a desire to reduce legal fees in order to just overall reduce expenses. And so we tried to make it at 15,000. It had been higher in prior years. But we spent more in legal fees than anticipated. So
I recall in prior years, the budget for legal expenses had been somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000, $30,000. I think we left that $15,000 earmark back in 2015, 2016. But nevertheless, it's the Finance Committee, which is the appropriate place to discuss this, where we can look at the budget and the line items historically.
And we will certainly do that. And, we have all the legal bills that we have received that we can provide to anybody who would like to see them. And I think you'll see that we made good use of our legal services this year. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
To dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel,
aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
aye,
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
No.
Ms. Masenko,
aye,
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Ordinance passes. Ordinance 2020-47, an ordinance authorizing the increase of 2020 estimated revenue and appropriations of the Coronavirus Relief Distribution Fund, a special revenue fund, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Cordes or Mr. Lumsden, can you give us some background here?
Can do so, sir. Phyllis and David recently have reported that $2,172.27 was received by the Village of Glendale from the Hamilton County Coronavirus Relief Distribution Fund. To use it for additional coronavirus-related materials, we need to adopt this ordinance 2020-47 to authorize its use and report said use back to the county to make it proper.
Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with three reads?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
To dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
aye,
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
aye,
Mr. Baysmith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passed, ordinance carried. Next is ordinance 2020-48. An ordinance authorizing the administrator and mayor to extend the service agreement with the city of Cincinnati for standby water services through December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency. This is, as my understanding, is just a continuation of a contract that we have had with the city of Cincinnati for many years. Should we, in an emergency, need to use their hook up for their water. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
and dispense with three reads.
So moved.
second,
Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk.
To dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
aye,
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
aye,
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. The ordinance is passed. We turn now to Resolution 2020-26, a resolution approving the application of the Sisters of Transfiguration for an amendment to a conditional use permit for a modification to the Bethany School plan at 495 Albion Avenue and declaring an emergency. You'll recall this matter was the subject of a hearing on November 2nd and then again on November 12th. And at the November 12th hearing, council voted to approve the application. And this resolution is really written memorialization of that vote. Do I have a motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion for to dispense with three reads?
so moved,
Second.
Okay. The decision is attached. This is just as I say, a memorialization of the vote that council took on November 12th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
To dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
aye,
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the resolution, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
aye,
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. The resolution is passed. We come to resolution 2020-28, which obviously we are skipping 2020-27, which I think might have been the verbal resolution on this. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but anyway, we are going to
That is
resolution
correct.
2028.
Yeah, that is correct. The 27 was the verbal resolution.
Okay, very good. It's a resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement with the city of Sharonville to provide emergency medical services to the village of Glendale and declaring an emergency. Ms. Masenko was the chair of the fire committee, is the chair of the fire committee, and I would ask her to give us some background on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For a number of years, looks like it's almost 15 years, Glendale's emergency medical services have been provided by the Springdale Fire Department. And this was at no cost to the village. Services were billed to users through their insurance. But in September, Springdale city officials informed us that providing EMS services to Glendale was no longer financially beneficial for them. And going forward, they asked the village to pay for the service, which we are not in a position to do. We didn't discuss the specifics of the payment, but just in general terms, it was significant. So Chief Hardwick began working on an alternative, and he contacted neighboring departments to find a qualified EMS replacement. And through his professional relationships, he struck an agreement with the city of Sharonville to provide EMS ambulance services within the boundaries of Glendale. There will be no cost to the village. and service charges will be covered by user insurance, as it was with Springdale. Sharonville employs full and part-time professionals who are certified EMTs at both the basic and paramedic level. And Chief, I'm wondering if you could just pick up a little bit in there, talk about when this will start and maybe the location of the service hub.
Chief Hardwick,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can
Okay.
hear you now.
So our plan moving forward is we'll be using the Sharonville station will be our primary response location. That's at Chester Road, just a little north of Kemper there. It's the second building actually on that side of the street. Distance is almost identical to what we had previously had with Springdale. This service will start effective at midnight on January 1. So we are all ready to go. We've already had staffs together going over the equipment and what the expectations are from each agency, and we're ready to proceed.
Do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? I would just say for my part, we had a very big meeting with the folks from Springdale. They're very good people, and I have stressed to their mayor how much we appreciated and valued the EMS service that they provided us over the years. But we were looking at going from basically a 0 line item on our budget to something that they were talking about being much, much higher. And I was just trying to imagine where that money was going to come from. And so, Chief, you have our thanks for finding the alternative source so quickly and at the same 0 line item budget. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
To dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the resolution, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth,
aye,
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Resolution is passed. Resolution number 2020-29, a resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement with the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners to participate in the use of relief funds in the amount of $46,277 allocated to the Village of Glendale for COVID-19 related expenses and declaring an emergency. Mr. Cordes or Mr. Lumsden, would you give us some background here?
I worked this a bit, maybe I should. So Hamilton County recently received $142 million from the Corona Relief Fund. They have decided to allocate to the local Hamilton County municipalities $25 million. They reached out to us. We discussed what it could be used for. It was determined that this too can be used towards police payroll, as they are first responders towards the coronavirus, as well as the fire department. However, the police department is most eligible as they have a larger payroll. We have requested what is our maximum amount of $46,277 allocated for the Village of Glendale. And to complete the request, Resolution 2020-29 is necessary in the application.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
To dispense with 3 reads?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. I see that we are applying, as I understand it, and I'm not being exact in that terminology, but I am looking at the dollars. We are asking for 46,000 odd dollars. And the Hamilton County Board has allocated $25,000 to municipalities and townships. Is that correct, Mr. Cordis?
No, actually 25 million. They received 142 million, and of the 142 million, they've allocated 25 million to the municipalities within Hamilton County.
Thank you for correcting that. I did not see the other zeros. Big difference. Which leads to my second question. I recall several months ago, around April, perhaps March, when we talked about potential funding from the local government fund coming from the state through the county. We had anticipated a certain amount of money to be allocated towards Glendale, or for Glendale to receive. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Wally, but are we within range of what we had anticipated? Is this a lot more or a lot less?
I think
And why?
maybe Mr. Lumsden and I can mutually answer that question. In my opinion, we are far exceeding that which we anticipated. This additional $46,000 was unexpected, and we went in line with it before. If you don't request it, it goes to other communities in larger amounts. So we want to grab our share. But
And to expand on what Mr. Cordis had said, that all of this CARES Act funding was largely unanticipated. So it is a boon for us when it comes to making up purchases and making up budgets that we have for combating COVID-19 in Glendale.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, I believe we have a motion on the table.
We do.
Would you call the roll?
To dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel. Mr. Hoeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the resolution, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Hoeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Resolution is passed. And we now turn to a continuation of a hearing, well, actually a hearing on a petition for a zoning change. And this comes to us from the Planning Commission. And it is a request that short-term rentals be allowed in the B zoning districts. I can tell you that the Planning Commission has held hearings on this subject, and they made a recommendation to deny the petition. The council is now holding its own hearing on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Some brand new news on this. I did circulate it, but late in the afternoon, and you may not have seen the email. We have heard from the petitioner and his attorney, well, from the petitioner's attorney, that they will not be attending the hearing this evening, and that they have decided not to pursue this request for a zoning change. However, there has been no request for a postponement. There has been no written confirmation that they are withdrawing their petition. So in my mind, and Kathy agrees, we have basically a live matter in front of the council at this point. And I think it would be in the best interest of the village, since so much has been done on this matter, that we take it to its conclusion and have take evidence this evening and have a vote on it. And so that is what I propose to do. we will begin with a staff report from Mr. Lumsden on the subject. Again, this is council's opportunity to understand this issue so they can take a vote on it.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the introduction there. I will go through this very briefly. This was provided to everyone over the weekend. But in late 2019, Mr. Kane purchased the property at 313 East Willow Avenue. It's home to the Quinn Chapel, which served as the main gathering space for the Quinn Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church for a period of not quite 100 years. So that's obviously a building rich with history. He had made several improvements to it. In June 2020, it came to the attention of the village that he was making it available for short-term rentals through the popular booking site Airbnb. As this is a direct violation of our zoning code, which is only in the B district, only permits single-family residential, we did issue a notice of violation. He complied with that and suspended operations as a short-term rental facility. In July, he filed a petition to amend the zoning code to permit these short-term rentals as a conditional use. Planning Commission held 2 hearings, both during their regular October and November meetings, where they received feedback from approximately 12 residents, as well as discussed the issue amongst themselves as the commission. They ultimately voted to recommend that council deny the application for the zoning code amendment as it was requested. They recommended denial on several fronts. Most importantly, that the B district's lot sizes are smaller than other districts in the village, and that parking concerns existed in the East Willow and Cleveland areas specifically, as well as the concerns about precedent of creating business uses in residential districts. So at the conclusion of the staff report, village staff also recommends that village council deny the application as it was submitted for the same reasons that the planning commission brought forward, which are listed here in the report as well. So thank you very much.
As we do in hearings, we allow residents and interested parties to address council on the question of the petition. Originally, the applicant, the petitioner, and his attorney were going to speak. They have now decided not to. We have 6 others who have asked for the opportunity to address council. As is our practice, persons will be limited to 5 minutes. And I might ask that, because we're really in a situation here where this is not a hotly contested matter anymore, given that the petitioner has chosen not to appear, the speakers should feel free to use less than their allocated 5 minutes here, and council will be grateful for that. So with that, I will begin with the first speaker, who is Bill Parrish. Mr. Parrish, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Uh-oh, there it goes again.
We have that clicking sound again, Mr. Parrish.
We'll do the same fix we did before, see if it works.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
We can hear you.
Yeah. I just wanted to commend council for the decision that it made. I think for me, the question about what has happened in this process is not as big an issue as I feel the history of the African-American community in the historic village of Glendale. I think we're losing sight sometimes of the importance of the African-American contributions to the village. And this is one. I think it goes beyond the fact that that building is less than 100 years old. It goes back to 1863 when Benjamin Arnett started the church in that same space in Glendale on East Willow. There's a rich history, of course, that Arnett's relationship with Finley gave him a lot of influence, not only at the state level, but in the village of Glendale. He was one of 2 African-American pastors in the village of Glendale. So I think, the fact that there isn't quite yet a marker there that brings that rich history to light, I think it would be almost dastardly for the village to allow that zoning to change for the sake of a money-making venture. I think preservation still wins out. And so I wanted to say thank you guys for coming to that conclusion, and thank the attorney and his client for maybe even understanding that this is much more important than whether you have an Airbnb or you have a history of Glendale, the African-American community in Glendale, be reinforced. Thanks again for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. I do just have to clarify for the record, council has not yet made a decision on the petition. So that will come at the end of the testimony and any discussion that might ensue. The next speaker is Mr. Kevin Parrish. Mr. Parrish, are you there?
I'm here. I reserve my comments to after others have spoke, since I've spoken earlier in this on this. So if that's possible, I reserve my comments until later. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
It's a bit unusual, but all right. You want the last word? Is that it?
Well, I mean, I don't want to repeat what others might say, and that would be within the time constraints.
Okay. Let's go on. Charlotte McKenzie. Charlotte, yeah. Ms. McKenzie,
Thank
are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful.
Proceed.
Thank you and good evening. To the mayor, vice mayor, and members of Glendale Village Council, the purpose of my testimony tonight is to ask the council to vote in agreement with the recommendation of the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission, which is to deny the application submitted by 313 East Willow Avenue and to disapprove all requests for such property. Historically, other applications similar to the one submitted by 313 East Willow have been rejected in their entirety. So I am asking the Glendale Village Council to also reject this application and to not set a precedence in the all residential districts of Glendale, which includes B districts. Many of these application examples and valid reasons were cited on November 2nd by the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission, which substantiates their recommendation to the council. One additional example is when many years ago, a construction company attempted to open their business on Cleveland Avenue, which some of our backyards face. I can recall when many of the parents on East Willow and Cleveland got together and met with the mayor in order to make sure the law was upheld and applied to all. The commercial business was very short-lived because they were in violation. District B is a 100% residential area. That area now is a neighborhood park on Cleveland Avenue where the children can enjoy. As shared by many residents and owners in B District's testimonies on October 5th and November 2nd to the Glendale Planning Commission, there is a strong sense of neighborhood pride. Many families have owned these homes on East Willow for over 60 years, in fact, close to 70 years in some cases. That history and strong legacy is very important to us. The message throughout all of our emails to you, our testimonies, and that of the recommendation of the Glendale Planning Commission is very clear and also very consistent, that we want B District to remain an all residential district, as are the other all residential districts in Glendale. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pamela Tucson. Ms. Tucson, are you there? Oh, did I get that name wrong?
No, Pam Tucson Summerlin.
Okay. Proceed.
All right, thank you. My main concern is that you are using a church that's been there since 1863. And my concern is about the people that will be using the building, as we've all said before, over and over again. And I just feel that it was a church and that's what it needs to remain as, and not make a profit for other people. My main problem is, you know, the neighborhood, we're quiet. We know each other. We talk over the fence, backyard all the time. We're very social like that. And the parking, as you say, is limited. Still yet, we have people come up the wrong side of the street continuously. And my concern about that is there's going to be a wreck one of these days very soon with all these Amazons and all this other things that are going on. But my main concern is, at the present time, is it is a historical building. There is a plaque there, but all it says is Quinn Chapel. It does not say AME. And that is very important to that church, to this neighborhood, to the people that started that church. And I, for one, we moved here in 1954, and that we all became a member of, and we continue that membership until Reverend Jordan left and moved to his new church. And then from there on, it was rented out as a startup church for many other churches that were there. But now there's no parking lot there to be used for that. But my main concern was the building itself. It needs to be preserved as that, like every other building that's historical here in Glendale. As you say, they're losing sight of our part of history. And it's important to me. I have my grandchildren, great-grandchildren here. They play in the park. They need to see that. And all these children that are coming up, they need to understand the history, not just because it makes money, but the history and the generations to come after that. That's what I have to say. And it needs to be that needs to stay as a church. We don't want everybody over there, period. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Tucson. Our next speaker is Brenda Daniels. Ms. Daniels, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Brenda Daniels, and I live at 79 Washington Avenue, and I am part of the B district or the B zone. I can appreciate the historical planning committee for listening to the concerns and the needs of the community by denying this particular request to rezone District B. It's very much appreciated that you heard from us and you responded to what you heard. I live in Zone B as well. I'm on Washington Avenue. So if B on Willow would allow businesses to occur, then that means that it could popcorn up this way. And before you know it, you've set a precedent and it could be all over the community. Thank you. And I'm going to cut it short because I really believe the council will agree with the recommendation of the Historical Planning Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Our next speaker is Dr. Ruth Wilson. Dr. Wilson. We can't hear you yet, Dr. Wilson. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, thanks everybody. And you know I love you. And I'm grateful to the Planning Committee for their unanimous vote. And I'm confident that you're going to do the same because we have the best council in the state of Ohio. And I know how you feel about us as we feel about you. So I'm looking forward to hearing your unanimous no vote. But I want you to know that like Ms. Tucson, I do have another concern. I'm not going to take up your time with it because I don't know the proper avenue, but I'm going to be following it because this building next door to me is a American Black Negro church building. And I want to see it remain that way. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done. Be blessed, be safe, and know that Dr. Ruth loves you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Mr. Parrish, Kevin Parrish, are you available to speak now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but have we heard from a Sherry Cooper?
She's not on my list. David?
I did not receive a message from Ms. Cooper in advance of the deadline to register to speak.
Okay.
Sorry
Mr.
for
Parrish,
interrupting.
you're
I
on.
see her name in the participants.
Well, if permissible, I would give up my spot for Sherry. I grew up with her, and she might have something more important to say than me, if that's possible.
It's very generous of you.
Is that possible?
Makes sense to me, Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
allow it.
Then I'll abstain from speaking and let Sherry have my spot.
Okay. Ms. Cooper, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Can you hear me? Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you very much, especially Mr. Parrish, for allowing me the time. Thank you, Council, for hearing me. I just wanted to express my concern and to echo all the sentiments that all the other participants had mentioned about the opposition to the zoning change for lodging in the neighborhood. My parents are long-term residents of the village, and as well as my sister and I growing up in the neighborhood. And as Charlotte mentioned, the area adjacent to the home that I grew up in was a construction site, and the village realized the error that this was a residential district, and they had the construction company moved out, which made this particular little two-street area very special to my family. We knew everybody, we played with everybody, we got along with everybody, and it was a very family-centered area. Safety in the community was always very important. We essentially didn't have to lock our doors years ago, but I think it's very important to maintain the integrity of Glendale and for people to understand that this is a very special community, and it's very special not just because it's Glendale, it's in Ohio, it's an interracial community with people from all walks of life, millionaires, billionaires, and people who don't have very much, but we get along. And having a lot of outsiders in and out of our residential districts is just something that we really don't want to have over and over again because of our safety and the concern and the specialness that we have in this community. And I've talked about our special place around the world. So thank you for listening to me. And I appreciate and hope that and urge you to make sure that this zoning change does not happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. That concludes the list of persons registered to testify. Do I have a motion to close the testimony phase of the hearing?
So moved.
Second. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I could not unmute fast enough. Before we close the testimony phase of the hearing, I'd like to acknowledge council's, at least my receipt of a petition signed by 25 residents, only a few of whom spoke this evening, but the petition clearly states and urges council to reject the amendment request. In this instance, it would be to support the decision by the Planning Commission. I also would like to acknowledge receipt of a handwritten letter that was copied thankfully by the Village of Glendale and sent to us from Mr. Eugene Butler III. And also, I'd like to lastly acknowledge receipt of an email message from Ms. Cindy Morse. And all of these, similar to the petition, and all who spoke this evening, are asking council to reject the application, and in this instance this evening, uphold the decision by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Now do I have a motion to close the testimony phase?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The testimony phase is closed. We proceed to council's deliberations, after which council will have the opportunity upon motion to vote either to approve, reject, or approve with modifications the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny the petition. So oddly enough, a vote to approve the recommendation will be a vote to deny the petition. We'll all get through it together, but that's the way our ordinance reads. So with that, I would ask, is there any discussion from council on this matter?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that I believe the deliberations by our Historic Planning Commission are good. I agree with their decision. I agree with many of the comments from our residents who've put a lot of thought and effort into helping to preserve the integrity of our village, and I think that's very good. We have a residential community here, and I believe we need to maintain that. There are lodging opportunities within the village square for people who want to experience an overnight stay in Glendale. It is not appropriate to put those in a residential district, that type of overnight stay or short-term rental in a residential district. So I plan to approve the action of the Planning Commission tonight.
Feel free to make a motion to that effect anytime. We can always discuss the motion.
I will go ahead and make that motion that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. We can further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, the commission vote was unanimous, and that was that 8 votes to 0?
I don't recall the exact the number. I have to recuse myself. It would have been 7 if it was totally unanimous, because I am the 8th member of the commission, and because I knew that I would be presiding at the council meeting on their resolution, I recused myself from consideration of the matter. So I don't recall if everybody was at the commission on that day, but if everybody else was there, it was 7 votes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe the minutes show that everybody was there and you recused.
Great. This will be a voice vote, and as we did with the Bethany matter, our solicitor will memorialize it in a written decision that we will then be able to vote on at the next meeting on January 4th. but this will be the decision of council. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Baysmith,
aye,
Mr. Baysmith, Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
I believe we also have a unanimous decision here. So I think part of my goal was to really make sure that everyone knows where council stands on this subject. We turn now to reports from the mayor and standing committees and special committees. And I will begin with my mayor's report. We have no bursts were reported once again to the village office. However, and I just have to do this just to inject some good news into this final meeting of 2020. Facebook tells me that we have a new arrival on November 21st at the home of Katie and Ryan Gary, and that will be Mathilde, who will want to be called Tilly. And or she might get headstrong about it and want something else, because kids get that way. But in any event, our best wishes and congratulations go out to the Gary family. We have had some deaths. Once again, I'm holding those until we can acknowledge them in person. So I'm going to proceed then with just some of the highlights of things happening in the village. The Community Improvement Corporation completed the sale of the property at Cole Avenue and received, that was on November 30th, and received a total of $31,000 for that property. We are one of our garden clubs, the Glendale Crafters Club, has announced intention, and they'll do it, to donate a planter for Carruthers Park. That's, for those of you who don't know, it is a little sub park at the west side of Lake Field. And the planter will be 47 inches in diameter, 26 inches high, made of cast gray stone. And there will be no cost to the village for either the planter itself or its installation. And I will have to say, in the spirit of full disclosure, this happens to be Mary's Garden Club, and they're doing this to acknowledge their 100th anniversary. Those of you who walk the village know that we have a new or for that matter, drive it, I guess, know that we have a new crosswalk at Sharon and Troy. It has we really felt when the UDF went in there, while we loved the idea and I love the place, it was likely to be a potential concern for people crossing the street. So we put in kind of a super crosswalk, with solar powered flashing lights. And we received a grant to do this for the entire cost of $48,000. Up on Oak Road, those of you who drive up there no doubt have seen the construction up there has torn up some of the road pretty badly at the top of the hill. And we have been mentioning this, to the contractor for a while. And they have been promising that they will repair it, which they are now going to do starting on this Friday. So again, there will be no cost to the village for this. And there will be a few days of inconvenience, I suppose, as the construction is going on. On a less happy note, the number of COVID cases in the village has continued to rise. And we're now up to 54. I believe that's up from 48 last week. And so it's troubling. We all just have to do our best to maintain appropriate precautions. There's going to be a article reminding us about this in the Friday newsletter. And then it's a recommendation from the Ohio Department of Health. It'll be in the newsletter and we will post it on our website. Finally, the new water main on Sharon is continuing to progress. And I will let Chairman Basemith of our Utilities Committee maybe fill us in on some of the details. Jeff? You're on mute. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, good news. After several years of effort and preparation, the goal of replacing that water main on Sharon Avenue is nearing completion. Just today, an important pressure test was made to determine the stability and capability of the remaining 100-year-old water main between Chester Road and the water plant. And it proved positive in that for a period of a number of hours, it sustained a very adequate pressure of 120 pounds per square inch. That's good news. And very shortly then, the houses along Sharon Avenue will begin to be connected to that water main. And with the completion of that, we'll then be able to begin the thought and concern about paving Sharon Avenue. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Basemith. We continue with the reports now. Madam Clerk, would you call on the committees to provide their reports?
Finance Committee, please.
The Finance Committee did not meet itself. However, several committees have met to discuss their finances and budgets for the coming year. With the COVID-19 situation, the village office being closed, all the precautions we have to take, this budget season has been fairly slow to get done. But most of the department's heads have turned in budgets. The budgets look fairly good so far. We need to meet to discuss those and come up with a final budget that I would really like to be able to vote on in January. So I have just recently received a couple of days ago draft versions for each department. So we should be able to meet and decide something if we can get together within the next couple of weeks here. How does everyone look for Finance Committee meetings, either the 10th or 11th of this week? Well, probably not the 11th, but the 10th, or any day the following week. Is everyone flexible for, say, 5 o'clock in the evening on any of those days?
I vote for 5 o'clock on any of those days on the week of the 14th.
Okay, looking at the 14th.
I agree. Although 4 o'clock would be better.
Yeah.
4 o'clock on any of the days.
That's good.
During the week of December 14th.
Okay. Is there days that does not, are there days that do not work for anyone, or can we home in and say on the 15th?
No, I have the 16th booked in the afternoon. So
Okay.
that's Wednesday.
So 15th is good?
15th is good.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody else? 15th? So we'll say 4 o'clock on the 15th. And then if we need a second meeting, that means we'll be looking at the 17th. Is that good for everyone at 4 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I do not think we'll need it, but just in case. So Wally, can you send out the notice for the 15th at 4 o'clock?
I can, and Mr. Wilson, can you work the Zoom?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and we'll also announce the 17th in case we need it. We can always cancel.
Yes, sir.
Great, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Wally, quick question for you. Does that have to be on QCRC or can that just be on Zoom?
If
It
I
can,
may,
it can be either way, just be standard Zoom through David. We host all.
I prefer it just be on Zoom since we know these can get the issues get.
you know, if I may, it is easier because we do rely on ICRC quite a bit for our meetings. It is easier and it is more flexible for us to be able to host them ourselves. We have the ability to do it, and it does fall within the permitted law as far as public meetings are concerned. We do make it available for folks to join and view. So I think we can do it ourselves. Absolutely.
Sounds good.
I have a question. If we were to do it ourselves, how soon would it be available for public viewing or access?
If we do it ourselves, there would not be a public live stream that would be available. So the easiest way to put it is to think of it as when we used to meet all in the same room, that council committees weren't typically videotaped like council meetings were. So you can go and attend it, whereas council meetings, you could go back and watch it. So if we wanted to make it live stream available, ICRC is the only way to do that.
To add to that, the minutes are the transcript of the meeting after the meeting.
Exactly.
Right. And that's
But people would be able to join the meeting on Zoom, right? Or watch it on Zoom?
Absolutely.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you.
Marilyn, while we're here, would you give me a call, please, when you get a chance?
Me?
Who?
Who'd you say?
Miss Duke.
Oh, Miss
I'm
Duke.
sorry, I did not hear you.
I've tried to reach you without success, so would you give me a call when you have a chance, please?
Will you be giving a utilities committee meeting report this evening?
Yes.
Okay, we can discuss it at that time.
Okay.
All right.
Madam Clerk?
Fire committee, please.
Fire committee met and developed a proposed budget for 2021 and a couple of other items, and the proceedings are in minutes and the minutes are posted. That's all I have. I'll turn it over to the chief.
Okay, thanks. The report was sent out. Pretty busy month for us, 42 total emergency responses. Kind of typical for a November, 4th anyway. This month has been increasingly challenging with the COVID-19 situation that continues to move ahead. We're working still continuously with Hamilton County EMA and providing PPE for the departments here in Glendale, and providing that for us at no cost. We have been notified that our EMS providers here in the village are on the list for the vaccine at the first round of that. So that indicates to me anyway that as we move forward that progress is being made. On a high note, Glendale Scouts have contacted me about installing a little library here in front of the fire station. They set up a GoFundMe page for that, asking anybody to reach out to try and help out. They're trying to raise $1,000 to make that happen. Right now, I think what's kind of neat to see is how the people that have responded so far to the GoFundMe are our own firemen. So our guys are behind it and would like to get some other support for that. Anything greater than $1,000 that would be raised would go to the Glendale Firefighters Association. for our projects that we do here. And that's pretty much it for us at the fire station.
Thank you. Laws and claims, please.
The Laws Committee did not meet. We will be scheduling a meeting after the new year starts. And there are a couple of items that will be on the agenda, and that will be announced at that time.
Thank you. Police Committee, please.
Police Committee met this afternoon, going over the budget. We have decided to send that on to the Finance Committee as presented. So that goes for the next Finance Committee meeting. The second thing we discussed was the parking on Sharon Road across from the fire station. And the committee has decided it is something that the two chiefs and Wally should take care of. Let them fight it out, not fight it out, let them let them concur with
Age
one another
match.
about what has to happen up there, and then that then should come back to the fire committee or to the Laws and Claims Committee or whoever is in charge of changing parking spots or whatever. The third thing we talked about was the junk car law. And we've decided that it's no longer in the police committee realm, and it should be turned over to Laws and Claims. And Ms. Duke decided that that is a proper place for it, so Laws and Claims will take that up. Other than that, we just had an adjournment, and I'll turn it over to Chief Foreman. Dave, it's up to you that you can give your report, please.
All right, thank you. I believe everybody got my report this afternoon, except for my cover sheet. Looks like I forgot to send that, so I apologize, but I do have some notes on what it said. Again, I want to thank the Scouts for giving us a little library, and I stocked it with some books today, and I strongly encourage to support the fire department to get them one as well, because it's great for the community and great for the kids, and I really like it. So it does a lot for everybody. Just an update on Officer Rocks. First of all, I sincerely want to thank Sharonville Police Department. Through the month of November, they did a No Shave November, where officers were encouraged to either allowed to grow a beard and pay a donation of $50 minimum to that charity. And each year they give it to a particular charity in Sharonville. But this year they opt to help Officer Rocks, who we all know is going through a lot right now. And they raised up like close to a little bit over $1,200 for him. And that was presented to him the other day. And I sincerely want to thank the city of Sharonville for allowing the officers to participate in that program. And I know Officer Rocks really appreciates it. Also, the update on Officer Rocks, we're hoping that he continues to heal, and he'll be back, looks like maybe January the 4th, and on some type of light duty. We're not going to put him out on the road right away, but we'll find some stuff for him to do. So we're really glad to see him coming back. And then finally, in my report, I indicated that we had a couple cars stolen while a resident was on vacation in Tennessee. We all know this time of year, everybody gets confused. There are, holidays and rushing in and trying to get things done. So, and you tend to forget things. They forgot to take the keys out of the car, and some bad people walked by and stole both their cars while they were gone. So please take the time to lock everything up, check, make sure your lights are working outside, and, certainly call us if you're going out of town so we keep an eye on your house for you. No luck on finding the cars yet, but they have been in there. So other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Chief. I just noticed from your kind of a monthly report that we seem to be having a lot of activity in the form of accidents and others. Is the lockdown or partial lockdown causing that, or what? Do you have any
I really
explanation?
think it has a lot of it is due to the construction going on around town. Folks aren't paying attention and, hitting each other from behind. So it's just, they're minor, nothing major, just minor accidents. So.
Okay, thank you.
Public buildings and historic preservation, please.
Public buildings did not meet. Jeff and Mike, I'll contact you tomorrow about setting up a very quick meeting. The budget looks good. I received that from Tom Aldifer, but I'll get with you guys offline. That's all.
Thank you. Recreations and playgrounds, please.
Oh, the recreations and playgrounds did not meet as a committee in November. However, as mentioned in the October, I'm sorry, okay. I thought I might have muted myself. However, as mentioned in the October meeting, through the diligence of Mr. Cordes, we got a grant of $100,000 to refresh and upgrade the equipment at Cleveland Park. And this process has already begun. The first step is actually completed. And bidding will begin in January with the target of construction being completed by late spring. And I would like to suggest to the persons who spoke this evening, Ms. Wilson, Ms. Cooper, Ms. Daniels, et cetera, they better be prepared, because there are going to be a lot of kids there who are going to be really pleased with that new environment. We'll meet again soon.
Thank you. Streets, public improvements and lights.
The Streets Committee did not meet. There has been a budget prepared for the streets that is very straightforward and I think can be easily handled within the confines of the finance meeting. We will at least circulate that preliminary budget to all members of the Streets Committee, and if it's necessary to meet before finance, we'll work that in if we need to. That's it for streets.
Thank you. Utilities, please.
Utilities did not meet in November, and much of the news we covered already, courtesy of the mayor allowing me to speak. However, I would like to take this opportunity to schedule a committee meeting, and Marilyn, you had said you wanted to speak about that when I gave the report. So if you will, please.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I was wondering if, as you suggested, the date of Thursday, December the 10th, if we could meet either at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock by Zoom.
That would be fine.
All right, thank you.
I would. Alan had said that he would be available Thursday, so are you still available, Alan?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay.
Great. Also, Mr. Chair, I'd like the committee to consider comments made by Mr. Kevin Parrish this evening about surface water and EPA and other matters that seems to me should be explored through the Utilities Committee.
I think that and a number of other topics will be discussed, yes.
Thank you.
That's the summary of my report.
Let me ask you, please, before we get away from that, what time was that meeting on Tuesday?
I think the suggestion was 3 o'clock, and that is suitable to me.
Is that all right, Marilyn?
Yes, 3 is fine. Alan, is that fine for you?
Yep, I'd be fine.
Would 4
All right,
be
thank
better?
you.
Would 4 be better?
I can't make, but please meet without me.
Oh, okay.
Is it the date or the time, Wally?
Both.
Ah,
Okay, we offline, why don't we see if there's a time that is suitable to everyone?
Actually, I'm not able to talk about matters brought up by Mr. Parrish. They are topics of a previous lawsuit filed against myself and the village,
I see.
as well as prior complaints. So I will abstain from communicating any information about that.
Okay, well, let's keep the Thursday meeting, and you will not be attending.
Correct, thank
well,
you.
I have questions about that, which I have not asked during the council meeting, but to the extent he is able to secure documents from the Ohio EPA and from the village, I'd like for the Utilities Committee to at least consider some of those same documents and some of these same concerns. I don't think it's simply something that we can ignore. And because it's, quote, if it's in litigation, that's news to me.
Please meet without me. I encourage it.
Thank you.
Well, let's have the meeting, and then we can carry on from that point with whatever is appropriate and meets the legal requirements.
Thank you.
I believe that's the end of the committee reports, Madam Clerk.
That is correct.
And we turn to the reports of the clerk and treasurer. Madam Clerk, do you have a report?
I have no report.
Okay. Mr. Treasurer, you're on.
I've forwarded our investment report for November to members of council. So if there's any questions, let me know.
Yes. Mr. Bogran, I do have a question. If you could give us a summary in a sentence or two, because the public does not receive that investment report as council does.
Well, we're continuing to be on track to meet our commitments to the village in terms of revenue as part of our investments. We're at about $202,000 of revenue as a result of all of our investments for the year to date. And we should be getting probably another 20,000 before the end of the year. Interest rates continue to be flat and dropping. So as we proceed in 2021 and review how we can use the monies that we will earn for our investments to support capital requirements by the village, we'll have to tighten our belt on that. So we'll discuss that during the finance committee meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have our financial reports. We do not have month-end reports at this time because Phyllis has been working so hard on getting the departmental budgets out and getting ready for budget season. What we do have, what I've received, is the general checking certification for the payment of certain bills and the enterprise checking certification for the payment of certain bills. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of these reports?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. And now well, how about that? The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for a very productive meeting, and thank you for bearing with us through this year 2020. And I'm already starting to look ahead, as you may have noticed. So we'll see, but we've got work to do on the budget. So
All right.
thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.